Our August 16th, 2022 council meeting. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Matt. Start us off with a roll call.
Councilor Halter.
Here.
Vitolo.
Here.
Savage.
Here.
West.
Here.
Hickerson.
Here.
Zadi.
Here.
Demas.
Here.
Robinson.
Here.
Mayor Como.
Here, councilors, I'd first entertain a motion to approve the revised agenda that you have before you here tonight.
So moved.
We have a motion by Councilman Zadi. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, councilors, also I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the city council meeting of August 2nd, 2022.
So moved, Your Honor.
We do have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second has been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're going to get right into the bid openings. We have 4 bids for the city of Rock Springs. The first one's going to be the 2022 concrete replacement phase 2. And we have one bidder, DiBernardi Construction out of Rock Springs, Wyoming. We have a bid bond attached, and we have a total bid. $395,550. $395,550. This bid's going to be turned over to staff for review and recommendation for the city council. Item number 2, we have the 2022 crack sealing phase 2 project. We have one bidder, R&D Sweeping and Asphalt out of Rock Springs. Bid bond is attached. We have a total bid $57,544.90. $57,544.90. This bid also will be turned over to staff for review. Item number 3 is Mower for the Parks Division. We have one bidder, Turf Equipment and Irrigation out of Salt Lake City, Utah. We do have a bid bond attached. We have a total bid, $49,720. $49,720. This bid will be turned over to staff for review and recommendation also. And we have on item number 4, the vehicle leasing and fleet management, which we received no bidders at this time. So that takes care of our bid openings. So we're going to move on to presentations and proclamations, and we're honored once again at the 21st year anniversary of 9/11 to participate and support the fire department in our memorial climb, and I think Kelly Mathis is here. Is Clark?
Clark's on a fire.
You want to come down and tell us what we're going to do, Kelly, and a little bit about the memorial climb this year? Thank you.
So, on behalf of Rock Springs Fire Department and Fire District Number 1, we would like to thank you for letting us use Grant Street last year. It was a great success. We had over 150 people attend, and those are the people that just signed up, other than people that came and walked on their own. We had first responders from all over the county, actually. We had Green River Fire, Rock Springs Fire, Fire District. We had the Sheriff's Department show up. A lot of their SWAT team guys came and showed support. A lot of the local gyms came out. Rock Springs Police Department also came out and walked with us. We had a great turnout last year, and I was hoping that with your guys' permission, we could go ahead and close Grant Street once again for 9/11 this year, 5 a.m. to 11 a.m., and that allows us time to set up safety barriers and also clean up when we get done with the event this year.
Well, I think it's a great event, and last year was a fantastic turnout, and we sure appreciate that. And we also give thanks to all of you first responders and our men and women in uniform. 21 years since this occurrence. It's hard to imagine, but one thing that we've heard and we need to make sure that we remember is we'll never forget. So I hope to see that we do this every year. And I know that's going to be upcoming on our agenda for the closure of that street, and hopefully the council will support that, and we'll have another great year. We also have a proclamation, which reads, whereas on September 11th, 2001, the United States endured one of the most unconscionable tragedies in our country's history. The cowardly terrorist acts on the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and onboard United Flight 93 cut short the lives of 2,977 innocent people. And these attacks ripped a hole in the heart of our nation, and the pain of this tragedy still remains. And each year, on this somber date, we remember the horror and bravery shown that day, just as we remember how we came together, united in grief and in purpose. Each year, we renew our solemn vow to never forget what happened on September 11, 2001, or those who lost their lives. And on Patriot Day and National Day of Service and Remembrance, we honor every life that was taken too soon. We honor the first responders, the firefighters, law enforcement officers, emergency workers, and military service members who answered the call of duty, and the brave civilians who rushed into action to save lives that day. Their courage embodies the American spirit and resilience, and their heroism continues to inspire new generations of Americans. And participating in service and remembrance activities on September 11th is a positive and respectful way to remember the lives of those lost, pay tribute to those who rose in service, and honor those who continue to serve our community and country today, including emergency responders, active duty and reserve soldiers and their families, veterans, and first responders. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Timothy A. Como, Mayor of the City of Rock Springs, do hereby proclaim September 11, 2022 to be 9/11 Remembrance Day in Rock Springs, Wyoming, and I encourage citizens to honor the lives of those lost through participation in the Rock Springs Fire Department's 9/11 Memorial Climb at 6:46 a.m. in the south parking lot at Western Wyoming Community College on Sunday, September 11, 2022, as well as the 9/11 flag ceremony at 10:30 a.m. located at the Western Wyoming Community College Circle. Kelly, we thank you for coming down here, and we're going
Thank you
to
so
turn
much.
this proclamation over to you, if we could.
What time was that flag ceremony? 10:30?
Starts about 7. As I recall from last year.
I went and walked the hill twice,
We'll be there.
and it was at the heat of the day. I thought I was going to die. I did.
Don't do that.
Hopefully the fire that Clark is on is not that terrible. But we wish him all as well. And always Rob Miller. I don't know where Rob is, but he seems to take the lead in a lot of this stuff too as well. We thank the fire department for once again taking the lead and making sure that we don't forget this event. And with that, we're going to move on to the public hearings section of our agenda. And we have one public hearing regarding a request filed by Travis Manis and Craig Knutson to amend the master plan use map and the official zoning map of the city of Rock Springs for property located near Marchant and Thompson Streets. So we'll take action under Resolution 2022-118 and Ordinance 2022-11. Is there anyone here tonight wishing to speak on this public hearing? Hearing none, we'll move on to petitions. And I would ask if there's anyone here tonight wishing to speak on any issue whatsoever, this is your time to get up and address the council. If you would just state your name for the record and go ahead.
My name's David Allen, and I'm here to speak on this letter that supposedly everybody got. Tim probably found it on Rants and Raves. I posted it. It's about parking and on New Hampshire Street. It's so narrow that if I don't park up over the curb on a right-of-way, that the street is so narrow that you hardly have room to get a regular vehicle down it. The letter took effect on Saturday at midnight. By noon that day, there was a wreck. One vehicle come around the corner on Connecticut. One was coming down New Hampshire. He cut into my neighbor's truck, got the cab of his truck, and if my neighbor wouldn't have had a heavy-duty bumper on his truck, it would have got the front of his truck too. Now, if I'm allowed to park on this right-of-way, it will widen the street about 3/4 the width of my vehicles. And if they can park partway on the sidewalk, it'd almost double the width of the street. As it is right now, you couldn't get an ambulance, a fire truck, or a snowplow down it.
Could I take a look at the letter?
On that rant and rave, if Tim would pull it up, I posted a video of the accident.
Your Honor, if I may.
Councilman Robinson, go ahead.
Yes, I do have it up on Rants and Raves. I don't have the technology to broadcast it to the video monitor, which I think would probably make more sense. I agree with you, sir. I believe there are, not just on New Hampshire, there's a few streets in the older section of town where parking is relatively congested. I see that this letter was sent by the police department. And just so everybody knows, I'll read it really quickly. The City of Rock Springs would like to remind you, for the safety of the citizens and the community, the following are ordinances. We have received multiple complaints regarding these ordinances, which are becoming a hazard. And it lists Wyoming State Statute 315504, specified places where parking is prohibited. No person shall stop, stand, or park a vehicle. A, on the roadway side of any vehicle stopped or parked on the edge of a curb or street, or on a sidewalk under Section B. Do you have, other than parking on the sidewalk, do you have any other ideas of things that the city may be able to do to solve the problem? And I'll just throw one thing out there to you that is a thought of mine. It may make sense to make some of those streets one way, where parking is only allowed on one side of the street.
I would not be parking on the sidewalk if I use that right away. If the city don't want me to use the right of way to park, as in crawling over the curb with my trucks, then they could tear the curb out, move the curb around to travel with the sidewalk, and then pave all of that area.
I'll tell you
Which
what, I would
which
probably
would-
defer to somebody who has a little bit more knowledge of engineering and the abilities for us to do that and other options. Paul, any thoughts?
Your Honor, Counselor Robinson, that's something I'd have to look at. I didn't even know these letters went out, of course, but that's something I'd have to look at. We have quite a few streets in this area that are very narrow, and parking has always been an issue. We have looked at several, making them into one-way streets. And there's always opposition to that of which side gets to park, which one doesn't. Is there adequate parking on one side for the residents of both sides? A good portion of these residents don't have off-street parking at
Right.
all. And so, you know, it never has occurred in a lot of these areas just for them reasons. But we can look at this New Hampshire area again and see if there's something that could be done.
All right, and then just maybe referring to Chief Walmsley and Chief Ersbaumer, have we had any issues with fire response that we're aware of that's ever been documented on any of those narrow streets that we probably need to address?
Mayor Como, Councilor Robinson, you know, from time to time, it does get congested on those streets when you have a response there. So as far as not being able to access, not necessarily, but certainly it could be an issue very easily.
I would say New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Wyoming has got to be the worst part of our town back in the day when those streets were not built for, arterial roadways. What I see going up there, and I would question the fact if you got a truck on the top of Rhode Island and had to take a left or a right onto Wyoming, whether you'd make that corner.
It's pretty tight.
We just had a situation just last year, if you remember, council of semis running up Wyoming Street trying to find their way to Simplot and dragging pups over the curb, turning onto Wyoming Street. But if there's cars on both sides of the street on Wyoming Street, you're folding in the mirrors and greasing the side of your vehicle to get through there. It's not a good situation, and there's not a lot of room to remedy that situation. That's the problem. The front yards are fairly short as it is, especially on the northerly side. So we'd have to take a look at that. But yes, definitely an issue.
There's a picture of how narrow the road is.
It is narrow, and then the other thing that compiles that, and I've seen that on Rhode Island, on Connecticut, Rhode Island especially, individuals that park fifth wheel trailers, toy haulers, UTV trailers up on the sidewalk and halfway in the street, and there's no room for that. Like everybody else, you almost have to find some storage to park your toys. It's hard enough with the vehicles as it is, let alone having camp trailers that sit there year after year.
If with this, you can see if I parked up on this dirt, that it would give more room. Then you could get an ambulance, a fire truck, or a snowplow down it. The way it is like this, you can get a pickup. A wide trailer, no.
We will we'll get together with the Mr. Kalsich and his department and take a look at it and see what we can do to remedy the situation and see if it makes sense to maybe remove a portion of that sidewalk, because I know exactly what you're talking about.
The sidewalk's all right. It's the dirt part that they
yeah.
won't let me park on anymore. I parked on this dirt for 3 years. After I had one mirror, somebody hit it so hard, it knocked the mirror into my fender and back into the door.
Huh.
So if I could get permission for now until there's a decision made to park on this right of way, which I don't know what's a right of way for, because there's a right of way to the middle of the road for utilities. So if I was going to have to move my vehicle, I would have, whether it's parked on the dirt or on the road, it would have to be moved anyway to work in that area.
We'll take a look at it. Right now, I would say just hold on and make sure that give us a chance to take a look at what that right-of-way width is and what we can do to remedy that situation, because it only gets worse in the wintertime as well when we're running snow plows and trying to maintain traffic up and down. Those streets are extremely steep and create.
So I have to leave my vehicles on the road?
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say leave your vehicles out on the road until we get back to you and find a resolution for this that'll
Well,
work.
who's going to be responsible for them,
If they get wrecked?
right?
Yeah, well, there's nothing that we can do right now other than have you park the way you've been parking for the last 3 years and see if we can resolve this situation.
Well, the last 3 years I've been parking on that right of way. It wasn't until this letter come out that they forced me out in the street.
Do you know, did the entire block get that letter, Chief?
The whole area did.
Your Honor, if I may, how this letter happened is we got several complaints up there, and our parking and nuisance officer went up there. Some were clearly a problem,
Yeah.
but then she looked, well, how can I ticket this one and force it
Right.
moved when I don't ticket any of these others?
Gotcha.
Because I asked her to use her discretion when she went up there. And then she came back and reported to me that I have a hard time, issuing citations or towing vehicles when they're all in violation of
Right.
ordinance. And then that's when I asked her to notify the citizens there that, that's the problem. But I 100% agree with him. The street's too narrow. Even driving a police car on Wyoming Street gets sketchy.
It is. I totally agree. Like I said, back in the day when those subdivisions were built, they're nothing like the widths that we require today. And if you get cars parked on either side, like I said, you don't have a lot of room to move there.
Your Honor, if I could just
Councilman
throw one more
Robinson.
thing out there. So in reading this, I just wanted to kind of let everyone know this is a Wyoming state statute. It's not actually just a city ordinance. So it's mandated by the state of Wyoming on where parking is allowed and where it's not. And the police department is basically, required to enforce those laws. Within that, they've got a certain amount of discretion. And I think that by the parking nuisance officer not giving everyone tickets and sending out a letter just reminding the people, I think that was probably the appropriate step to do. But I know that the engineering department, Mr. Kalasich, will take a look at it and we'll try to come up with some type of resolution. So I think when the mayor advises you to go ahead and continue parking on the street legally, it's really what we can do. It's not just where we can say, go ahead and illegally park. We're not here to allow you to break the law.
Right.
I think I think the police department's trying to do the best that they can to mitigate it as best they can. And it's been brought to our attention and it'll definitely be looked at.
I've got a question, just observation on this too, is technically it's not the sidewalk. If you look at the video you had, there's some dirt there, then there's the sidewalk. So that's why, if we want to look at this, the verbal letter of the law, it does state sidewalk, it doesn't state you can't park on the curb or in that kind of area between the sidewalk and the street. So I don't know how do we interpret that?
I think that what would have to be done is we'd have to take a look at what the right-of-way width is and see how much distance that dirt piece is taken up and see if there's a willingness for the city to maybe, vacate that portion of the dirt to allow a little bit more ground in there. But we'd have to take a look at it. Like I said, it's hard to discuss without going out. taking a look at it and seeing what we can do.
Somebody has planted a tree at one time and then cut it down. That tree was cut down when I moved there.
Well, we appreciate you bringing that up to our attention. That problem has existed for many years, but we'll get together and see if we can resolve it.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Okay. Any other individuals wishing to address the council on any issue? This is your time. Okay, hearing none, I'm going to close the petition sections and we're going to move on to the officers and staff reports. Council, item number 1, we have the health insurance fund recap for July 2022. What's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Mr. President,
move to approve the officer and staff reports.
we do have a motion to approve the officers and staff reports, including the financial report summary for June 22. I apologize. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're going to move on to council committee and board reports. Councilors, we have one item, Rock Springs Historical Museum Board meeting minutes of June 8th, 2022. And I would ask, are there any other committee reports, board reports that wish to come forward at this time? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the council committee and board reports and place on file.
So moved.
We do have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's going to bring us to the bills and claims. Council, item number 1 is the bills and claims for August 16th, 2022. What's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilwoman Demus?
I make a motion to approve the bills and claims for August 16th, 2022.
We do have a motion to approve the bills and claims for August 16th, 2022. Do we have a second?
Second.
We do have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstained.
Let the record show. Item number 2, the salaries for August 8th, 2022. Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilwoman Demus?
I make a motion to approve the salaries for August 8th, 2022.
We do have a motion to approve the salaries for August 8th, 2022. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, councilors, we're going to move on to the new business item on our agenda. Item number 1 is approval of the 2022 OPEB actuarial evaluation report updated for the provision of GASB statement number 75. What's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Mr. President,
move to approve this report.
we do have a motion to approve this report. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 2 is a request from the police department to participate in a national program offered by Hills, which will allow shelter animals to be fed science diet pet food on a consistent basis. Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
I knew it. I knew it. Councilman Savage.
I move to approve this request from the police department. It's always good to feed your pets on a consistent basis on a diet.
And science diet. We do have a motion to approve this request. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item number 3 is a request from the fire department for permission to close Grant Street between College Drive and Center Street on September 11th, 2022 from 5 a.m. to noon for the 9/11 Memorial Climb. Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman Patolo?
move to approve this request.
We do have a motion to honor this request. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second has been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
What time does it start? I forgot to write it down. Huh?
I can speak to that if you want.
7?
So the first tower was hit at 8:46 a.m.
Oh.
But that is Pacific Standard Time. So here,
6:40.
that would be 6:46. So where you thought we would
Eastern
like,
time.
or I'm sorry, Eastern Time. Mountain Time, it's 6:46 a.m. So we wanted to start when the first tower was hit. We're going to ring the bell and blast the horns every time either a tower collapses or another plane hits a tower. That way, it kind of keeps in your mind the progress of events on that day and what people were going through during those certain intervals, say 30 minutes. Here, the firefighters were progressing into the building, and then 45 minutes later, the tower collapses. And it just kind of brings to the forefront those sacrifices that those people made, and kind of is a nice feature that I don't know, makes it more real for us and the people that are going to be joining the event.
Right.
And is that, you're going to ring the bell over by the tennis courts? Is that where it's going to be?
No, the bell will be at the top
Oh, at the top
of Grant Street. So when you finish, you can also ring the bell, take a picture, and signify that you did 100 flights of stairs. Or if you feel plucky, you can do 343, which is how many first responders died that day, which means 12 lengths of Grant Street.
6 laps.
Yeah.
True.
They did that with 70 pounds of gear on. I did it last year. It was not fun. It's manageable. However, it is a good challenge, for sure. Any other questions on Grant
Real
Street?
quick, Your Honor. So I didn't get to participate last year, but I hear people are carrying rucks and bags and
Yes.
backpacks or
So we're
whatever.
going to have all sorts of different implements that you can carry with you. If you want to
Okay.
carry a hose pack, they're about 35 pounds, depending on which hose pack you grab. We have weight vests, so kind of like the 511 vest that you can wear to exercise, and that'll simulate wearing a lot of our gear. We have all sorts of other things that you can do. I believe one guy carried an American flag, a quite large American flag, the entire way last year. He did a really good job. Some of the firefighters did it in full turnouts with their gear on, and it was very, very warm. That is another reason to start early in the morning, because it was almost 80 degrees by the time we ended last year, and it gets pretty hot. So
Yeah.
for safety concerns, starting earlier is a little bit better, and it coincides with the time schedule.
Yeah,
So
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Kelly. Appreciate it. Okay, item number 4 is a request from the fire department for permission to fill a vacant firefighter position. Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilwoman Demus?
I make a motion to approve this request.
We do have a motion to honor this request. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item number 5, permission to apply for a Sweetwater County Travel and Tourism Grant for the December Dunk Basketball Tournament.
Your Honor,
Councilman Hickerson,
I move to approve this request.
we do have a motion to approve this request. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 6 is a request from the Parks and Recreation Department for permission to bid a replacement vehicle for Civic Center programs. Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman Batolo.
move to approve this request.
We do have a motion to honor this request. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second has been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item number 7 is a request from Square State Brewing for permission to allow open containers and to close South Main Street in front of 422 South Main for the Cowboy Kickoff event on August 27th, 2022 from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman Batolo?
move to approve this request for such a fine, upstanding business.
No comment.
Not far.
I heard the owner's a jerk.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain.
Let the record show. This is going to bring us to our resolutions, councilors. We have 5 items under resolutions. Item number 1 is Resolution 2022-116.
A resolution accepting and approving an artist booking form agreement between Aubrey Mabel representing Lady and authorizing Timothy A. Como as mayor and Matthew L. McBurnett as city clerk to execute said agreement on behalf of the city of Rock Springs.
Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Mr. President,
move to approve Resolution 2022-116.
we do have a motion to approve Resolution 2022-116. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. Roll call.
Counselor Batolo,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Hickerson,
Yes.
Zadi,
Yes.
Demus,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Halter,
Yes.
Mayor Como.
Yes. Item number 2, Resolution 2022-117.
A resolution accepting and approving an agreement with Frontline Public Safety Solutions and authorizing Timothy A. Como as mayor of the city of Rock Springs, Wyoming, and Matthew L. McBurnett as city clerk of the city of Rock Springs, Wyoming, to execute said agreement on behalf of the city.
Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman Savage?
I move to approve Resolution 2022-117.
We do have a motion to approve Resolution 2022-117. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. Roll call.
Counselor Savage,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Hickerson,
Yes.
Zadi,
Yes.
Demus,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Halter,
Yes.
Batolo,
Yes.
Mayor Como.
Yes. Item number 3, Resolution 2022-118.
A resolution amending the official land use map of the Rock Springs Master Plan from LDR, low density residential, to HDR, high density residential, a piece, parcel, or tract of land located in the southeast quarter of the southwest quarter of Section 36, Resurvey Township 19, North Range 105, west of the 6th Principal Meridian, Rock Springs, Sweetwater County, and being more particularly described as follows. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, sorry.
What was that towards the end? Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilwoman Demus?
I make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-118.
Councilors, we do have a motion to approve Resolution 2022-118. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second has been called. Roll call.
Counselor West,
Yes.
Hickerson,
Yes.
Zadi,
Yes.
Demus,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Halter,
Yes.
Batolo,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
Mayor Como.
Yes. And item number 4, Resolution 2022-119.
A resolution accepting and approving a governmental equipment lease purchase agreement between Caterpillar Financial Services Corporation and the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, and authorizing Timothy A. Como as mayor of the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, and Matthew L. McBurnett as city clerk of the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, to execute said lease on behalf of the city.
Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman Batolo,
I have some question and some comment on this.
go ahead.
So the way I understand that this is a $34,185.21 per year for 6 years, correct?
Yes, Your Honor, Counselor Batolo, that's correct.
Okay, so that equals $205,011 in some sense. And then there's the remainder of, if we decide to purchase it, $117,668, correct?
That's correct.
So that's a total expenditure of $322,779. I have 3 questions on it. What did we spend over the last 6 years for rental of track hoe? The next question, did we look at purchasing a used track hoe? I found one just briefly looking on the net. It's a 2019 same model for $124,900. And my third question is, why isn't there any competitive leases from other, say for a Komatsu or a John Deere or other other brands or what have you?
Well, Counselor Batolo, I guess the answer to your first question is we normally spend about $24,000 to $30,000 a year leasing a Traco for approximately 4 months, or renting, I should say, not leasing.
Right.
Renting a Traco. Your second question, we did pursue initially some demo model Tracos and some used, but because of the large expenditure, even though it may be in the long run maybe cheaper, it was decided that we would budget for a lease because it was a lot less expensive initial expenditure, and it's a brand new unused piece of equipment. A lot of the used equipment have been used by contractors and have been, for lack of a better term, I guess, used and abused, and then require additional maintenance, of course. And then your last question, by state statute, we're allowed to sole source equipment. And due to, I guess, all of our equipment, or the majority of our equipment is CAT equipment, and to keep consistent with maintenance of them, filters, that sort of thing. We in the past have, even when we did purchase new equipment or the like, have always gone with CAT equipment. But we're not required to, I guess, entertain multiple bids by state statute.
Okay, I understand that. I don't know if I agree with it in this time of tight budgets and that kind of thing, because perhaps we could have got another brand for less money per month and an overall less buyout. Right now, we don't know.
I can add a little
Go
to
ahead,
this conversation,
Mr.
if I
President.
could, Your Honor. We discussed this pretty thoroughly during budget committee time when Paul brought the request to us. We looked at various, I guess, avenues that you're speaking to, because we had the same concern. Obviously, you guys know we were about $10.5 million out of balance when the budgeting started, so we were kind of going through everything with a fine comb. What we were thinking was, with Paul's option on this, is it doesn't lock us in for the full 6 years, and that was also kind of during the time where we were, dealing with the flooding issues and trying to clean out drainage ditches and what have you. Also, the availability at that time, I can't speak to it now, but seemed to be difficult as far as finding equipment and even renting it and being able to rent it. So we mulled it back and forth. I agree with a lot of your concerns. We just kind of felt like it was easier to swallow $34,000, try it for a year, see how it works. Because the other fear was, if we did buy even a used one at, $100,000 or $150,000 or whatever, that if we're not needing it, then it's just sitting, and depreciating. So
Okay.
that's kind of, I guess, I can't speak for Rob, but I know a lot of us on the budget committee were kind of entertaining the option of, at least we're not locked in for the full 6 years and we don't have to buy it at the end. So that's my 2 cents on it, but I understand where your questions are coming from.
If I could, Your Honor, since Keaton mentioned me, I do agree with what Keaton said, and I agree with your concerns too. And that's something we did talk about in budget session. And I know, just from a mechanic standpoint, working on the same equipment, parts, like you said, filters and that, it's a lot easier to come by. You may have duplicate on some of that stuff. And 2, after hours, weekends, holidays, we have a line break or emergency use. It's readily available, and we're not really expending more than we have historically on a yearly basis. So that's kind of how we, after weighing everything, it just kind of made more sense that way.
Yeah, Your Honor.
I can understand the need, you know, especially with the ditches and that kind of thing. But I would have liked to have seen some of that before we had it to vote on tonight, I guess is what I'm saying.
But, and like I said, you know, Your Honor, we lease it for, say, 4 months during the summertime normally, for approximately the same amount of money that we're going to be able to have this piece of equipment year-round. Even this year, we tried to lease one to go do certain things with it, or rent one, I mean, and it wasn't even available. We had to wait months until one became available. We've had water breaks that we don't have the equipment or the ability to maintain that system, and we've had to hire contractors to go and do that. In this instance, we will have that piece of equipment, and the water department could then utilize that piece of equipment year-round to do that.
Okay.
And
Your Honor.
part of that discussion took place too during the budget cycle. I think a lot of us just take a look at what we spent on renting, but Paul just mentioned something that we talked about before. Normally we do hire a contractor to come in and do that kind of work. So we're not only paying for the equipment, we're paying for the man hours and everything else that goes along with that. The good thing about having a piece of equipment that large, it's not just focused on streets or even water, but it could be the reclamation facility. It could be anywhere. It could be recreation. It could be anywhere. Just being able to have a piece of equipment that we're not at the mercy of somebody else and paying year to year and taking a look at where we are after the first couple of months, even, and seeing whether it's realistic, was part of that discussion. So, was there another comment?
Your Honor, I was just going to ask a question. With that lease, does that include a service plan with the
I was just
for the
thinking
vehicles
same thing.
or for the unit?
It does not.
Okay.
What was the answer?
It does not.
No.
So can anyone, Your Honor,
Councilman Savage, go ahead.
so are our mechanics allowed to work on it?
They are.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. $250,000. I wasn't sure how flexible they were.
Your Honor,
Mr. Matt,
just
go
like
ahead.
an explanation on why it went so late on the agenda. Paul got me the paperwork on Friday, and I think the price was good for around 30 days. But Rick and I wanted to get comfortable with the paperwork, and because there's a lot that went with this paperwork that we had to fill out. So going through it and everything took a little longer than I expected. And so by the time we got the resolution prepared and we felt good about the paperwork attached to it, we sent it out as soon as we possibly could. So.
Well, I appreciate the due diligence. I know there were a lot of questions that we went through, and it needed to be right. Any other discussion? Councilman Pattillo, any further questions?
No.
With that, Councilman, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Mr. President.
move to approve Resolution 2022-119.
Council, we do have a motion to approve Resolution 2022-119. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. Roll call.
Councilor Hickerson,
Yes.
Zadi,
Yes.
Demus,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Halter,
Yes.
Batolo,
No.
Savage,
No.
West,
Yes.
Mayor Como.
Yes. Resolution 2022-119 does pass. Moving on to item number 5, Resolution 2022-120.
A resolution accepting and approving a cooperative agreement between the Wyoming Department of Transportation and the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, and authorizing Timothy A. Como as mayor of the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, and Matthew L. McBurnett as city clerk of the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, to execute said agreement on behalf of the city.
Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman Hickerson.
I move to approve Resolution 2022-120.
We do have a motion to approve Resolution 2022-120. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. Roll call.
Counselor Zadi,
Yes.
Demus,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Halter,
Yes.
Vitolo,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Hickerson,
Yes.
Mayor Como.
Yes. Okay, council, this is going to move us on to the ordinance section of our agenda. We have two items under ordinances. The first one being ordinance 2022-10 on third reading.
An ordinance amending Article 3.5 entitled Humane Control and Regulation of Animals and creating Section 3.546 entitled Trap, Neuter, Return of the ordinances of the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, and authorizing the practice of trapping, neutering, and returning abandoned, stray, lost, or feral community cats.
Council, third reading, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman Savage?
I move to approve ordinance 2022-10.
Council, we do have a motion to approve ordinance 2022-10 on third reading. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. Roll call.
Counselor Demus,
Yes.
Robinson,
I'm not sure how to say yes in cat, so I'll just say it in English. Yes.
Meow.
Halter,
Yes.
Vitolo,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Hickerson,
Yes.
Zadi,
Yes.
Mayor Como.
Yes. And item number two, ordinance
Oh,
2000.
Your Honor,
Yes.
if I could just say something real quick.
Please.
I wanted to thank you and Rick and his staff for all your support and work on this. And I just want to make clear that all the ordinances are staying in effect. You know, the number of animals you're allowed to have, complaints from neighbors, there's been some concern about that. And the goal of this is to reduce the number of unhomed cats through spay and neuter. That's what this is about, and that's all it's about. Okay? Thank you.
Agreed. I do know there were a lot of questions I believe we did, thank you, Mr. Beckwith, help resolve a lot of these questions, but you're exactly right. And item number two, ordinance 2022-11 on first reading.
An ordinance amending the official zoning map of the City of Rock Springs from R3 medium density residential to the zoning designation of R5 high density residential. A these parcel are attractive on located in the southeast quarter of the southwest quarter of section 36 resurvey township 19 north and 105 west of the 16th School Farm in Rock Springs, Sweetwater County, state of Wyoming.
And councilors with no further business to come before the city council, this meeting is adjourned.